Hi everybody, it's Evan here, and we are in the final verse of the last chapter of Titus. We've made it through this letter, a short book, but so rich with Paul's encouragements and teaching to Titus. And I want to read just this very last verse of this book as we wrap up our study in the book of Titus. Paul writes this, he says, "All who are with me send greetings to you. Greet those who love us in the faith. Grace be with you all." I think for many of us in this time of the lockdown and quarantine, we are relearning just how valuable correspondence and reaching out to those that we love, our friends and family, how valuable it is. Keeping up the connection between us and those that we love and care for in our lives, I think has been brought to the forefront for so many, as it's easy to take for granted under normal circumstances just how much we need personal connection and the connection to those that we love. And so I was reminded as I was read through this letter again, how Paul is using the best tools at hand. And for him, that looked like, a papyrus scroll probably, and a scribe that could write down the things that Paul was saying. But he used the tools that he had at hand, not just to stay in touch, but to use the power of language to encourage and exhort. And at the very last phrase of this letter, he says, "Grace be with you all." And I wanted us to think about this as we close out this book. The power of our words, not only to bring us close to each other from a distance, as many of us probably have done through FaceTime and Skype and social media through these times, through phone calls and letters even. Not just the power to bring us closer, but the power to express and extend things like the grace of God, the power of the Holy Spirit, encouragement that builds someone up, not just in their mood or how they're feeling in the moment, but on the spiritual side of who they are. That our words have power. And just as Paul is writing these things, not just as a handbook on how to be a good leader, it is that, but also using words to express the grace of Christ to Titus. And I'm encouraged and I guess challenged in how do I use my words? How do I utilize the best tools that I have at hand, even in this time of social distancing, to allow the grace of God and the presence of Christ to be expressed through my communication? And so I would encourage us as a church, and many of you who are probably watching from far away, let's use our words today and understand that they have not just the power to encourage, but a spiritual power to bring life to people, to bring God's grace close to people, to allow the Holy Spirit to work in the way that we communicate, even at great distances. Paul was a great leader, but he was also a great pastor. And you may not think of yourself as a pastor, especially if you don't work for a church, or you never went to seminary and all these things that you think of pastors as doing. But I want to encourage us that we are all called in these ways to pastor people, to help shepherd those that God puts in our path, whether we're professionals at leading in church or not. All of us have this calling to encourage and exhort and to extend God's grace and his encouragement. And so whatever tools we have at hand, and this is what's cool, is we have the best tools that the world has ever seen to reach out. So I encourage you today, reach out to somebody, encourage them, maybe even pastor them. Don't preach at them, but extend God's grace in the way that you communicate today. And I hope you've been encouraged by this book. We're going to take a few weeks off as we have some guest speakers the next couple weekends, but then we'll be back for a series on the miracles of Jesus, where we'll be reviving these video devotionals as we work through the Gospels, talking about the way that Jesus encountered people in their everyday lives and changed everything while doing it. God bless you. Love you. We'll see you soon.